Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. I hope you guys are doing well.
I hope you're doing really well.
So, we're going to talk about Hanuman, and also, it's hard to have a talk about Hanuman without talking about giants. And, giant folklore is all around the planet, as well as beings like the demigods. There's so many legends. Remember the Genesis 6, right? And it talks about the mighty men of renown, basically heroes. And then it talks about destruction and giants eating humans and everything. And it's all a convoluted mess. And that's because it's not even Reader's Digest. When you're looking at Genesis 6, it doesn't give us much of a picture. Just a little glimpse, but yet when we look at all the comparative mythology around the world, it becomes a much different story. Great, grand stories, really, when you get down to it, epics.
I think that's the way to do it, is you have to use the comparative information that you can find, and they just don't give us enough in the Bible.
So when we look at the mythologies around the world, one of the most colorful ones, and perhaps maybe there's more insight in what we find coming out of India than in many other locations, because for one, they talk about vimanas, they talk about flying ships, they talk about these devas that fight these beings called asuras. And so you could label the devas as like angelic beings and asuras as demons. Maybe it's a little bit more convoluted than that. Maybe there's a little bit more going on. Maybe if we shift our mindset and just start looking at these beings as simply that, beings. Beings like us, beings maybe perhaps a little bit more advanced than us in technology for sure. Perhaps some of them more advanced spiritually as well, and their insight and knowledge as to, exactly what are we as far as, these mind-body complexes. So Law 1 talks about.
Yeah, it's very confusing, but we do have information that we can glean things from. It's also very, very curious.
So Hanuman is thought to be, in simple terms, kind of a monkey god, quote unquote. Perhaps, demigod is a way to look at it, or, he's also known to be an incarnation of Shiva again. Now, Hanuman is also the right-hand man to Rama, who is an incarnation of Vishnu. And Vishnu is the preserver of the universe. Shiva's the destroyer, and Brahma is the one that gives birth to things, creator, So it's interesting really to look at this, because what you have is an incarnation of Shiva the destroyer, and the destroyer is just one aspect of Shiva. Basically kind of being the bodyguard and right-hand man of Rama, who is the incarnation of Vishnu. And all this takes place about 5000 BC, roughly, as Rama is the incarnation right before Krishna. And Krishna, interestingly enough, as we were talking about, when his incarnation in this world ended, which happened to be within 12 years of the end of the Mayan calendar, that's the beginning of the Dark Age. So that's the Kali Yuga. So it's so interesting to see how across an ocean people agree on different eras. And basically it was a sad time when Krishna left. It was the leaving of the preserving force of this universe that we have. And again, Hanuman as an incarnation of Shiva. The other thing that is really interesting about Hanuman is that he's supposed to still be here.
I feel he is. I do feel his essence on this plane.
Now, a real curious thing about Hanuman is also he could be the size of a human, albeit maybe a little bit large human. And then he could also get to be huge, like 30, 40, 50 feet high, bigger than that. He could actually manipulate his molecular structure and change his size. So fascinating stuff. And, one of the interesting things is he has left footprints, according to legends, all over the place.
And I do believe in that he is here. I really do. I think it's cool.
So this is the Ramayana, and this is a shortened modern version in English of the Ramayana, which tells you these stories. And it tells you the stories and their adventures and their fights against the demons, the dark forces. So, basically what happens is there's this one demonic entity that kidnaps the love of Rama, Sita, who is an incarnation of Lakshmi. And Lakshmi is the goddess of many things, including the goddess of prosperity and abundance. And Lakshmi also incarnates as Radhe to Krishna's incarnation. So she incarnates when he does. And they are a couple.
It gets confusing, but it's so interesting.
So yeah, they take bodies in order to interact on this 3D plane that we are in. So if you're interested, I'll have a link to that PDF. So signs that indicate the existence of Lord Hanuman. Well, one of the real interesting things is this bridge. There's a bridge that goes between India and Sri Lanka. And this bridge is right in the Ramayana. In the Ramayana, it says basically it's constructed by Hanuman and his army of monkeys, but really monkey men. And that gets you wondering about, I wonder if this has anything to do with like Bigfoot or Bigfoot-like creatures that are really intelligent, but sometimes seem to appear and disappear at will. And we find these gigantic footprints here and there. It's really interesting to see. So this monkey army go ahead and construct a bridge from India to Sri Lanka in order for Rama to go and get his woman back.
Wow, that's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And the real interesting thing is there's evidence for this bridge. And actually you could see it from satellite photos, and it's right here. It's pretty interesting. That is it right there. And it's actually submerged now, but it was above water perhaps as recently as 1500. But it's just underwater as we take another look of it. So a bridge that Lord Ram built, myth or reality? And it's the Ram Setu Bridge between India and Sri Lanka. Now, there are those, modern science says, well, it's just limestone and it's a natural formation, just eroded over time. But what's interesting is, too, they date it, modern science dates it to the same time frame, coincidentally. And here we see 10 mysterious things about Ram Setu. And, there's a debate. What is it, natural or is it man-made? Now, according to Hindu mythology, it was built by Lord Rama with the help of Varana, a monkey army. He had to construct a bridge to reach Sri Lanka as his wife Sita was kidnapped and was imprisoned there. Surprisingly, at the time of the Ramayana, about 5000 BC, and carbon analysis of the bridge sync perfectly.
Yeah, so why isn't this more well known, I wonder?
Well, in India, it is. Here in the West, we're not too familiar in the whole with the story of Hanuman and Ram, and some perhaps, but not the majority of people. So we can confirm a mythology only through historical evidence. Some believe Ram Setu is the only archaeological and historical evidence of Ramayana. The detailing of the construction of the epic can be related to some scientific theories. However, it's hard to believe everything through a mythological perspective. It's walkable. It was walkable. It is also said that Rama's bridge was above sea level. Even some historical records suggest that it was walkable until the 15th century, even though the estimated depth is around 3 feet in some spots and 30 feet in some other areas. So Ram Setu is also called Adam's Bridge, Nala Setu, and Setu Banda. Ram Setu, as it was built by Rama and his army, is said Nala Setu because it was Nala who was the architect who designed the bridge. The name Adam's Bridge came from some ancient Islamic texts, interesting enough, referring to Adam's Peak in Sri Lanka as that is where Adam, biblical Adam, is supposed to have fallen in this part of the earth. Interesting. So the reefs of Palk Strait, scientific studies reveal that it is a linear sequence of coral reefs or limestone reefs, according to science. It's naturally formed causeway, which connects Pambam Island to Manor Island. And roundabout for ships, even though it's inside the water, the ships cannot sail on it. The water here is very shallow, with the level of depth varying at certain points. Hence, ships from India have to take another route to reach Sri Lanka. And studies of oceanography suggest the bridge is 7,000 years old, which is perfect. Interestingly, the carbon dating of the beaches near Dhanukshkodi and Manar Island sync with the date of the Ramayana. Ambitious Setu Samudram project. It's a proposed bridge to build over the Palk Strait. The idea is to have a shortcut route from Pambam Island to Manor Island to Sri Lanka. And of course that would cause a religious uproar because Hindus believe Ram Setu is a holy site and hence no other man-made bridge should be constructed over it. And as seen from a scientific perspective, it might destroy the natural reefs, which have existed in this area for a very long time. Now, curiously enough, there are floating stones, and the Ramayana mentions that the Setu Bandha was constructed with floating stones. Surprisingly, such floating stones are scattered across this area even to today. Scientific theories suggest that some volcanic rocks do float in water, and this perhaps could explain the linear formation which formed the bridge. So man versus natural, to think about it as man-made, is rather interesting. Looking at its depth, it is possible that it was once above sea level. Most definitely, as we know in the ice ages, most of the seas were a good 400 feet lower. So it's also possible that the sea level, the rise of sea level over the years has submerged the causeway. Fascinating stuff, but that's not all. That's not all as far as the evidence. You have Lord Hanuman's giant footprints all throughout Asia, and footprints attributed to him. Now this one looks a little bit too straight for me. It feels like somebody might have just gone ahead and started carving.
It does. That one looks kind of jagged.
It does. But there's other ones that look far more impressive. And you can see here, this footprint's bigger than these people who are, lining up flowers all around it and worshiping it. And that one's in Thailand. In Thailand, there's a book called the Ramakien, which means the glory of Rama. It's the Thai version of the ancient Sanskrit epic, the Ramayana. The ancient capital of Thailand used to be called Ayutthaya, yes, which is named after Lord Ramachandra's capital of Ayodhya in India. Excuse my pronunciation there. The president capital of Bangkok was originally a small trading post 40 kilometers away, as we see that footprint that we were looking at there. Next three pictures show the footprints at Lapashk in Andhra Pradesh. Some legends say that it's the footprint of Lord Hanuman. Others say it's the footprint of his mother Sita. So how big was Sita?
I know. She must have been good size.
Are we talking giants? And then again, we have all these legends of giants all over the world. And here we have one in Sri Lanka. Look at how big that is. Again, that's about the size of her. So, if you have a footprint that's, 5 to 6 feet, how big is the person? Most people have a 1 foot, to being 6 foot tall. So there you go. We're talking somebody that's like 36, 40 feet tall. Malaysia, you have another footprint of Hanuman's kept within a small temple. Visitors throw coins in there as well. And there's other ones as well all around the world. How about this? This is Michael Tellinger. How about this footprint? That he's probably, 5'10" or 6 foot-ish. So, that's a good solid 4 foot plus 4.5 foot footprint. Now that looks really authentic.
That one is probably my favorite one.
And that's in South Africa. But then, of course, we hear of, the mining going on in the gold mines, which there are in South Africa, that date back, millions of years. So, it's interesting, too, because the dating on in the Hindu epics, they say we've been here a long time, and there was times when there were many other beings here with us, all different types of beings, some very humanoid, some maybe not so humanoid, out in the open with us, sometimes warring, flying around in what we would only call, spaceships, shooting their laser beams, and perhaps at times what seems to be nuclear weapons as well. As we see another one. Now that's a pretty good sized foot too. And there's yet another. And another. And that one's in Syria. Look at those. Those are in Syria too. Now you think all this is just people just carving away and just trying to keep the legends going? Or do you think there's something to it?
Well, I definitely think there's something to it. And I think things were a lot more out in the open back then. There was nothing hidden.
And this is Botswana. And, this was in Alaska, and that's shewed, and that is imprinted in ancient rock. What's going on here? What really is our history here? And that's in Lake Tahoe. Is it really a footprint, or is it something else? And look at that one. That's in Bangalore. That looks really real to me, too. That one definitely, don't you think? Mm-hmm. And that one's in Bangalore. And this is in Belize. So, we could see these are all over the world. And some of them are wearing shoes. Mm-hmm. It's pretty wild. This is in Spain. Cleveland, Ohio. Look at that footprint. Is that just a natural rock formation? Yeah, I don't think so. How about Paraguay? How about that one in Russia? That's a pretty impressive one. Look at that. It's in Russia. And a 290 million year old human footprint found in New Mexico.
Wow.
So when we look at all these legends all around the world, they do really sync up. And, the other thing about Hanuman, well, for one, he's one of the immortals. And in Hinduism, it varies. Some sources say there's 7. Some sources say there's 8 immortals. And these are beings that are still alive on Earth. And their job is to basically guard the planet. It's almost like, you have like an Obi-Wan Kenobi who's just tucked away, hidden somewhere, trying to just wait, for Luke to be born, right, and Leia to work through with something to try to take back the planet and to try to overthrow the evil empire. And it's interesting, too, because in Taoism, you have the 7 immortals as well. And, there's a lot of legends about these immortals. And so, supposedly, Hanuman is one of those, and he is still here on the earth and is going to remain on the earth until, the return of the other ancient ones. And now the other thing that was interesting is Rama comes from the inner earth civilization, which is interesting. It's in the Ramayana again. That's where he comes from. He comes out onto the surface because the Asuras, and when I it just hit me that the Asuras kind of reminded me of, basically what we see with Enlil and Enki, and so I started to wonder, are the Asuras the Anunnaki that we hear about, because what do the Asuras do? Well, the Asuras basically use humans as slaves. They take over a land, they become the kings, they, get all the riches, they eat the best food, they have the best drink, they take the best women, and they do what they want. Whereas the Devas, of which Hanuman was with and fighting for, they teach humans how to live in harmony with nature. They teach humans, about the secret things, such as how the universe really works. how, the time spans of the universe, that the fact that there's humanoid life on so many different planets all around the galaxy. They teach us openly, and they're trying to educate us, and at the same time they do protect and guide us, where when the Asuras are coming, they generally just, it's all about them. And so it got me thinking, gosh, those Asuras, they really feel like the Anunnaki. And so, who are these devas? Well, when Krishna left, they're gone. So they're not here anymore, besides the seven immortals, who are doing their best to try to maintain, or the eight immortals, depending on which source, to maintain some semblance of good in the world until the time when the reinforcements arrive.
Yeah, I feel like that could be extremely plausible. They got to hang back and kind of watch things, unfold. And then when it's their time, they will step up.
Yeah. And you feel that Hanuman is still here. His energies are still here on the planet.
I feel his energy very strong here on the planet.
So we just want to share that with you guys, some insight. Thank you so much for your support on Patreon and also on Ko-Fi. And don't forget, we have a Discord going. It looks like they're talking about alien chickens there or something. So join us over at Ko-Fi, Ko-Fi at Discord. And as always, guys, God bless and namaste.
Namaste.